Every day, there's somebody in your market that's spending tens of thousands of dollars on marketing, grinding 10-hour days, making hundreds of calls, but getting zero deals. They're frustrated, exhausted, and ready to quit. Meanwhile, there's somebody else in the same market spending half the amount of money in marketing or $0 on marketing, closing three, four to five deals a month, and working half as hard. You might say, why? And I'll say it's not their budget, it's not their hustle. It's because they know exactly where to hunt for deals. Like I said, every single day there's somebody spending 5, 10, $15,000 in direct mail or bandit signs. They're doing a bunch of bandit signs and they're doing PPC and Google ads and all these things. And they end up broke, burned out, and convinced that real estate isn't for them. They're gonna blame the competition, the market's saturated, I don't have a budget. Everything is the problem. What if I told you the only difference isn't those things, and it's actually just knowing where to hunt those deals? Well, today I'm going to be pulling back the curtain and showing you the exact market analysis system I wish somebody would have taught me when I started. I'm going to treat you just like you're one of my personal students and walk you through everything. No fluff, no holding back. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to identify the exact zip codes where the motivated sellers, agents are waiting and wanting your offer. And also where your competition is going to be thin at. Not a lot of people know what I'm going to tell you. And every marketing dollar you're going to spend is going to be a higher chance of putting cash into your pocket. Listen, I learned this lesson early on. When I first started, I made the classic mistake. I was looking where houses were the cheapest instead of where the deals were actually selling. But I caught on quickly because most investors don't. They keep chasing the lowest priced properties, thinking that that's the budget people want, not knowing that some people don't even have a budget. They just care about the spread and the profit. Meanwhile, the real money is being made in markets where the actual buyer's demand and investor activity is. That realization taught me that the market selection isn't just important, it's everything. And let me ask you this. Do you think a restaurant in a town would pop up where nobody would eat? Do you think that we would sell shovels here in Florida for snow? Of course not. But yet investors do the equivalent every single day when they skip the proper market analysis. And here's what happened to me that made everything change. When I started, I was spending 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. 16 hours a 6 days a week. That's more than working a job. And it took me months to get my first deal. But as I kept going and I kept going, I kept going, submitting offer after offer, I was tracking everything. I noticed a very weird pattern. There was one area where I get a really high contract acceptance rate, right? Sellers were saying yes to my offers left and right. I thought I was doing good. I felt good about myself. But then those contracts kept falling out. So I get high acceptance and a massive cancellation rate. But when I started gaining traction, I noticed in another area, it was completely different. I have a lower contract acceptance rate, and more sellers will say no to my initial offer if the money's in the follow up. The ones that did say yes, I started closing those. So I got a high conversion rate from being a contract to close. And before I was getting a high contract acceptance, but a low conversion rate. And that's when it hit me. The first area sellers were motivated, but they were unrealistic about their pricing or the market was bad, right? Or it was just in the hood or the ghetto that people didn't want to be. And I didn't really understand what I should be contracting them at that time. So when I went to sell those contracts, I was either priced way too high or just working a zip code that nobody was interested in. The second area would be highly desirable. Sellers knew what they were selling and they did not want to go under contract and give their house away. But buyers would jump on the ones I got immediately because they knew that those properties would sell fast after they flipped them. Now, when you target the wrong market, you're not just wasting money on marketing or wasting your time, you're wasting, money and time spent. And that time that you wasted could have been spent building relationships with wholesalers or closing other deals or spending with agents or buyers or building your business. The opportunity cost of bad market selection is massive. But how do you avoid it? It first starts with understanding that the market analysis happens at three distinct levels. You have your macro level, which is going to be your state and city analysis. And the macro level is going to be like your 30,000-foot view. You're looking at entire city, entire states to understand the big economic picture, right? You can look at California and say, well, that there's a lot of migrating out of California. There's not much immigration. You look at states in the South where a lot of New Yorkers, Californians are moving to Texas and Florida, right? Our migration is and immigration is really high. So the first thing you want to look out for is your population growth. Is it a growing population that's going to create a housing demand, right? And you want to see steady growth over the past 5 years, not just a good year and then a decline. The second thing is you want to see a good job market. Check unemployment rates where major employers are. Because if businesses are moving in or out, if one factory closes, it can devastate the entire market. Look at the city of Detroit. What happened when the car industry left? That whole city went down. The third thing is you're going to look at landlord friendly laws. If you're buying rentals or selling buy and holds, this is non-negotiable because some states make it nearly impossible to evict tenants or maintain profitable cash flow. And some states even have rent control, which will end up capping the ability to raise the rents with market rates. I can tell you here in Florida, in my market, I love it because we are a very landlord friendly state. If we have a no squatter law, if somebody's not paying rent, that next day you can go kick them out. If you have people that are just living there and are homeless, you can just call the cops. They'll come and they'll take them out. Some states, the homeless will literally stay there for free, like for months and months and months and months and months until something actually happens. So you want to avoid that. Now, another thing you want to avoid is going to be the price. I'm sorry, not avoid. One thing you want to consider is going to be your price trends because that is going to align with the strategy. For wholesaling, I want markets where homes are affordable enough that investors can still find a good deal, right? For flipping, I needed to have enough spread between the purchase and ARV to make the profit, which goes hand in hand with wholesale as well. Now, something to avoid is going to be declining population. Like that's automatically a red flag. If people are leaving, there's usually a good sign and a good reason. Could be high crime, terrible schools, economic collapse, restrictive laws that make real estate investing difficult, and markets where prices have appreciated so much that deals are nearly impossible to find. You're going to be out there swimming with a million fish in a little puddle. You don't want to be there. For this, you can use, government data for population trends. You can go to Redfin data center for price trends. You can look at PropStream, which is a paid service. There's all different kinds of services and tools you can look at to get a big picture quick. Now, the next level is your meso level, which is your zip codes, your neighborhoods, right? This is where you're drilling down. And once you've identified the city, now you need to look at those zip codes, those neighborhoods, because that's where the real money making intelligence lives. And the first indicator is going to be your days on market. In hot pockets, homes move fast. So I'm looking for average days on market under 45 days, ideally 30. And this tells me where the active buyers actually are. Where's the demand? Where I need to supply. Next is going to be consistent appreciation over the past 6 to 12 months. Not crazy spikes that aren't sustainable, but steady predicted growth that is going to indicate that this is a good market. And here's some secret sauce for you guys. If you look for high investor activity, cash sales, quick closes, properties that sell and get renovated and flipped, when other investors are active in that area, that's usually a good sign. If you don't have any of that, you're usually in a bad or too royal, right? But here's a key insight that most people miss. I want to find areas that are both high investor activity and seller distress because that's your sweet spot. That's gentrification. Areas with pre foreclosures, code violations, tax liens. These create motivated sellers. And when you combine motivated sellers with active investor buyers, you found a gold mine, right? What to avoid though is going to be high days on market, which means that buyers aren't interested. And volatile pricing, where values can swing widely up and down, up and down, that's just speculation. That's not proper investing. Low investor activity might mean other investors know something that you don't. Maybe it's hard to sell a house there. You can look at heat maps if you have Deal Machine or other platforms where they show you exactly what actually has happened. Look for the clusters of recent sales, active investors, and those distressed properties. Those clusters are going to be your target zone. Now, this next part is your micro level. This is your street, your block, right? This is where you're analyzing there. This is the ground level, the ground truth. And this is where we're going to verify everything we learn from the macro and the meso, and it's going to go into the micro. And this is where you're looking out for consistent property conditions across the street or block. This is where you see flip, 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 distress, flip, flip, distress, 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 flip, flip. You're seeing all different signs. One of the things you can look on Google Maps would be like looking down the street for like big dumpsters, contractor trucks, fresh paint. These are all going to indicate investor activity and neighborhood improvement. Another thing is going to be price consistency. You want to make sure that the stuff selling is going to be very similar. You don't want something that's extremely off because then you're going to say, okay, this was definitely an outliner. You want to have predictable value so you can accurately estimate your ARVs. Something you want to avoid is going to be something where you see nothing but a boarded up window houses, abandoned cars, overgrown lots, and you see a bunch of for rents and nothing is getting picked up. That's telling you that that market is weak, it's bad, it's rough, whatever it is. And like I said, you can use Google Street View for this. You can, use Deal Machine or, all these other ones you can, look at the street. Google is free, so I suggest you use it. But don't stop there, right? Join your local Facebook groups, talk to agents that work in the area, drive for dollars if you live there, just to look around the area. And because let's face it, local knowledge is going to beat any type of software you can have. Nothing beats actually being in person. I also use PropStream as well. You can look and scan multiple streets without even spending any time in your car. If you have that, highly suggest it. But all right, let's put all of this into action. I'm going to walk you through my exact process step by step, and I'll teach you what to look for, what tools to use, and how to interpret the data so you can do this in your own market. Steps one is going to be your initial research. First, you want to open up your platform of choice, whether it's PropStream, Zillow, Redfin, whatever, realtor.com, whatever it is, they all work. But here's the key. Don't search an entire city. Start with a specific zip code that you pre-identified with your macro analysis. This keeps you from being focused and prevents information overload. Now, when you're looking at your sold properties over the past 6 to 12 months, what you want to see is a steady appreciation around that 3 to 5% annually. That's healthy. That's sustainable growth. But you want to avoid those massive spikes followed by drops. If you see values jump 20% in 6 months and then drop 15%, that was speculation. Not That's not a stable investment opportunity. Look for the boring steady climbs. That's where consistent money will be made. Now, the next thing you want to look for is the investor activity in cash. And here's how you're a cash buyers. This is exactly how you're going to identify, the investor activity. Filter on the keywords cash, as is, investor special, right? And just so you know that the national average for cash sales is about 25% of the properties. If you're seeing 35 to 40% or higher, that's a strong indicator that this is a good investor activity area. The cash buyers, what that means is that they're investors, and investors are going to follow up their opportunities. They've done their homework. They want to be where everybody else is already active. The next thing you want to look for is rental properties. You want to check current rental rates. So you can use Zillow Rent Estimate, you can use Rent Spotter, and any other real estate listing apps, right? And here's the math, and this is just a general rule of thumb. If let's say a 3 bedroom rents for 1,800, you can essentially probably buy that around 180,000. That's just a 1% rule. Now it's going to depend, of course, like with the cost of money and all these things. If somebody's paying cash, that might make more sense. But if somebody's getting hard money, they might want to be closer to that 155, 160 mark. If they got to add anything to the property, fix anything. But that's just a general rule of thumb that usually gives you something positive cash flow. The next thing is going to be your street view verification. This is where you're going to be using your Google Street View to actually see where the numbers represent. Look for this well-maintained streets, signs of the renovation, the dumpsters, contractor trucks, you get it. And the numbers, they got to look good, but the street view is going to show heavy abandonment, then the numbers are lying to you, right? Something's off. Now, the next thing you want to look at is the hot versus cold pockets. And identifying these pockets gets a little interesting because I'm looking for active versus pending listings to understand the market acceptance. See, the active listings that have been seen for 90 days plus that are flipped, that's a market that's showing you it's rejecting that price. But you look at the pendings and when our contract lasts 15 days, that's what's going to tell you, okay, the market's accepting this. Let's look at it this way. This is going to be the insight that makes or breaks your ARV estimate. If the listing act is active for 250 and is not selling, but then there's a pending at 230 moving fast, that market is telling us closer to 230 is the real value, not the 250. Even if something had just sold 30, 60 days ago at 250, a lot of people say 250 is my ARV, but then you look at actives and pendings at 230. If 250 is my ARV, why are they not selling at 230, 240, and definitely not selling at 250? So when I'm analyzing a potential deal in this area, I'm basing my ARV off that 230. That's what buyers actually accept, not the 250. That's what sellers want. Now, the single insight that was going to save you from overpaying for properties and losing my own flips and also having canceled contracts that you can't wholesale is to notice how the pockets are. Are they having consistent buyer activity while the cold pockets have listings that just sit and sit? Your time, your money spent on marketing should all go toward the hot pockets where your motivated sellers actually exist and where your buyers are actually buying. Now, there's a scoring framework here that I'm going to show you and kind of go over so you can kind of identify, what areas to look at. And I know this is a lot of information, but just write it down. Watch the video 100 times if you need to. But get this and engrave this, because if you engrave this, you are going to be able to close deals everywhere that makes sense. Now, if let's say you are quickly comparing multiple markets and you need to make objective decision. We're going to score each potential market on a 4 criteria category, each rated 1 through 5. There's going to be demand, supply, profit potential, and ease of access. Now, demand measures how quickly properties sell, how much a buyer is interested in that particular area. A 5 would mean that properties are selling under 20 to 30 days with multiple offers. A 1 would mean that properties are sitting for months and months. Second thing is going to be your supply. Look at the inventory levels in competition. A 5 means low inventory, high demand. Great for sellers, but you need to move fast. One is going to be oversupply, lots of inventory, easy to find deals, but harder to sell. Third one is going to be your profit potential. This is where your spread between what you can buy for and what you can sell for. A five means that there's a widespread good margins, and a one means that the margins are very thin. And one mistake can kill either your deal or the investor's profit. The fourth thing here is going to be ease of access. And what I mean by that is, your local laws. Is it, you have good boots on the ground network, how easy it is to actually do business there. A five means is landlord-friendly laws. Like in Florida, we got the no squatter laws. We got good local connections there. A one's going to be restrictive, rent control. You know, you no squatter laws there where they can just live there for free for a long time, not pay their rent, and there's not really much of a local real estate community you can tap into. Now, if you add up all these scores for each market, a perfect score would be 20. But anything above 15 is worth targeting. Anything below, I would suggest you just avoid. So let me just give you an example, right? Market A scores demand 4, supply 3, profit 4, access 5. That's a total of 16. Where market B scores demand 5, supply 2, profit 3, access 4. That's 14. Both are good, but market A is going to get my attention more because of the higher overall score. Now, here's what you need to do. Like right now, after this video, not next month, not next week, you need to pick 3 zip codes in your target city, run that through that analysis, use the scoring framework we just went over, and rank them objectively. Don't go with your gut, go with data. Numbers don't lie. Now, post your findings somewhere, educate somebody, put in the comments below, just chat about it. I would love to see what market you're in. And how maybe we can do deals there, right? I'm in the Northeast Florida market, so if you're doing deals here, connect with me. If you're not, join a local real estate Facebook group, find an accountability partner, whatever. But when you make your analysis, make it public because you're more likely to act on it. Now, use your analysis to direct that marketing. If you're spending money in marketing, if market A scores the highest, that's where your energy, time, and money goes. That's where you're going to start building relationships with agents, wholesalers, buyers, and that's where you're going to be focusing all of your time spent. So stop spraying and praying, stop throwing spaghetti at the wall, start targeting with precision because the investors making real money aren't working harder, they're working in better markets. Look, I understand market analysis isn't sexy, it's not fun, but it's part of real estate. And it's the absolutely most important thing. If you get this right, everything else is going to become easier. You get this wrong, nothing else is going to matter because you're not going to be closing anything. And if this breakdown helps you clarify how to choose profitable markets, smash the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. I'm going to be releasing more of these deep dive trainings, hopefully every week, probably around Tuesdays and Wednesdays, helping you master the fundamentals to actually get you out to make money in real estate much faster than doing out there on your own. Drop a comment below with your biggest takeaway from today's training or ask questions about market analysis. I read every comment that people post and I respond personally to help you. So if you want to go deeper, I'm also hosting a master market challenge. Uh, Go ahead in the link description below, mastermarketchallenge.com. Sign up for the next challenge where we're going to go to advanced strategies. I'm going to personally help you analyze specific markets. If you thought this video was good, we go in deep dive for 5 days straight, live coaching, live training, whatever it is you name it, totally risk free. So join the challenge. And remember, every successful investor started exactly where you are right now. The difference is from those who make it and those who don't, isn't their talent, isn't their luck. It's just following a systematic process that I just showed you right now. You got this. Stay blessed by the best. Don't quit. Don't give up. Go get some deals, make some money, and I'll see you in the next.